The first time I met Alina, she wore oversized headphones and socked feet, slinking between half-unpacked boxes in the kitchen of the apartment I was supposed to move into. I knocked twice. She didn't hear. Third knock, I leaned in, said her name. Alina! She jumped, laughed, apologized, said something about how she gets in the zone when she's unpacking. There was already a cast iron pan on the stove and 2 mugs drying on the rack. I remember thinking, fast mover. I only had a duffel bag and an IKEA box with my name sharpied on top. The place was decent. Nothing special. Just 2 rooms, a cramped kitchen, and a shared bathroom with the kind of grout that always looked slightly gray, no matter how much you scrubbed. The lease was split evenly. Utilities weren't included. The usual. I was 26, working swing shifts at the shipping yard, chasing foreman pay with overtime because I'd promised myself I wouldn't end up like my dad, burnt out by 40 with bad knees and nothing saved. So I kept my head down, paid on time, didn't throw parties. I wasn't there to make friends, just stack cash, get out. But Alina, she brought life with her, always music playing, always people over. She had this casual way of taking up space like she'd never been told not to. At first, it was fine. I told myself I liked the noise. It reminded me that I wasn't alone, that maybe I hadn't wasted my 20s chasing checks in silence. And then the dishes started. It began with 1 bowl, just a single off-white cereal bowl that sat in the sink for 3 days. No water soaking it, just dried milk congealed at the edges and a spoon cemented into place. I rinsed it, set it aside, figured maybe she'd forgotten. Then it was a bowl, a plate, and 2 mugs. Then a pan with burnt egg crust. Then flies. Not the big buzzing ones, those tiny floating specks that hover like they know you can't catch them. I came home one evening after a 10-hour shift, cracked a cold bottle of water, and there it was, that warm, stomach-souring smell, like damp socks mixed with old cheese. I stared at the sink. It looked like a still-life painting of negligence. Bowls, forks, food crusts, a half-full glass of something thick and pinkish. The kind of scene you don't touch without gloves. I texted her, "Hey, mind getting to the dishes tonight? Sink's getting kind of crazy, lol." She left me on red. I should have said something in person. But we weren't close like that. It felt petty to push. I figured she was having a week. We've all had weeks. So I cleaned them. I told myself it was easier this way. Less stress, less tension. I even used my own sponge. A week later, it happened again. This time I left them. I made sure to use only my plate and wash it immediately after. I marked the sponge with a red Sharpie so she wouldn't use it. When I saw her, I smiled. Kept it light. She didn't seem to notice. Month 3, I started counting. There was a Friday where 9 dishes, 4 pans, and 11 pieces of silverware sat in the sink for 8 days. Mold bloomed on 1 bowl like a science experiment. Something fuzzy and green clung to the edge of a fork. I swear to God, I saw a bug. Not a roach, worse. One of those long-legged silverfish that moves like a mistake. I texted again. "Hey, can you pause clean your stuff?" "It's been over a week and there's mold this time," she replied. "Ugh, I will when I can. Stop nagging. I'm not your maid." I didn't respond. I walked to the corner store, bought nitrile gloves, and cleaned it all. Again. Then I stopped doing her dishes entirely. I left notes, polite ones. I even drew a smiley face. One time I left a Post-it that said, "Science fair project or plate. You decide." She laughed when she saw it, said I had jokes. But nothing changed. We hit the half-year mark in silence. We weren't fighting. We just weren't anything. Passing ships. I kept to my room. I worked long hours. She moved through the space like she owned it, leaving her music loud, her hair in the drain, her Tupperware in the fridge until the smell made me gag every time I opened it. One night, I found a mug with blue fuzz growing at the bottom. Another had maggots, tiny, writhing things I could barely comprehend. I held the edge of the counter and breathed through my mouth. I started taking pictures, not to post, not to shame, just to prove it to myself that I wasn't crazy, that this was real. I brought it up again, face to face this time, calm. "Hey, can we talk about the dishes?" She groaned. "Again?" "It's not a small thing. There's mold. There's actual bugs. I'm busy, man. Like, sorry I don't have your pristine standards." I didn't raise my voice. "I don't need pristine. I need sanitary." She rolled her eyes. "Jesus, you sound like my dad." Then she walked away. The last straw wasn't loud. It wasn't even particularly dramatic. It was Thursday. I'd just worked a double because someone on second shift bailed. My boots were soaked from a leak in the roof. My hands were raw. I hadn't eaten since 6 a.m. I was dreaming of frozen pizza in the couch. I walked in, dropped my bag, and smelled it before I saw it. The sink was overflowing. Not just full, overflowing. Plates stacked like a game of Jenga. Grease sheen on the water. Food scraps floating in the drain. I stood there, didn't move. I texted her. "It's disgusting again. This is insane. Please clean it." The dots appeared. Then her reply, "We'll do it when I can." Stop nagging. That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just stop nagging. Something snapped. Not anger, not rage. Something colder. I looked at the pile, the water, the slimy ring around the drain. I thought about all the shifts, all the notes, all the quiet walking on eggshells to keep things calm. Then I turned, and I started carrying dishes to her room. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't messy. It was surgical. One plate at a time. One cup. One pan. I didn't throw. I placed. Covered every corner. Food bits. Old sauces. Mold clumps. I draped a greasy ladle over her pillow. I poured dishwater. Slow. Careful. Right in the middle of her comforter. The sponge went on her nightstand. Took me 23 minutes. I closed the door. Sat on the couch, turned on the TV. I didn't feel proud or vindicated. I just felt done. She came home 3 hours later. I heard her footsteps pause, the door creak open, then a scream. "What the fuck?" I didn't get up. She stormed into the living room. "Are you insane? You trashed my room." I looked at her. "You mean the way you trashed the kitchen?" She blinked. "That's not the same. You ruined my stuff, my sheets. You ruined our apartment every day for months." She didn't argue that. She just pointed, furious. "You're a psycho. I'm calling the landlord. You're out of here." Then she left. I sat there, TV still on, sink still empty. And for the first time in months, the apartment smelled like soap. It came the next morning. I was half dressed, coffee halfway to my mouth, when the email pinged through. Urgent, tenant complaint filed. No subject line fluff. Just those 5 words, and the name Lloyd & Carmichael Property Management sitting cold at the top of my inbox. My stomach dropped. I clicked. "Dear Mr. Haynes, we have received a formal complaint from your co-tenant, Alina Fairbanks, regarding a recent incident of property damage and harassment. Please be advised this constitutes a breach of your lease agreement. We are obligated to investigate this matter and may initiate proceedings for lease termination should findings warrant it. You are invited to respond with your version of events within 72 hours. Regards, Claire Simmons, Tenant Relations Officer." 72 hours. No phone call, no warning, just a complaint and a countdown. I sat there with my coffee going cold, replaying everything. The dishes, the mold, the maggots, the texts, the silence. My hands clenched, not from guilt, but from the sheer weight of how fast the hammer drops when you're the one who finally snaps. Alina didn't mention a word that night. She didn't yell after the blow-up, didn't slam doors. She just vanished into her room and emerged early the next morning like nothing had happened. Left quietly, probably while I was asleep. I should have seen it coming. I didn't wait the full 72 hours. I called Claire Simmons that afternoon. She answered on the second ring, crisp, polite, didn't sound like someone who had time for a mess. Claire Simmons, Tenant Relations, how can I help? Hi, this is Nathan Haynes, Unit 3B. I got your email this morning. A pause. Yes, Mr. Haynes. Thank you for responding. We did receive a formal complaint from Ms. Fairbanks. She left out a lot. I assumed you'd want to make a statement. I have a few minutes now. I wasn't ready, but I spoke anyway. Told her everything, not in a rage, not in some self-righteous monologue, just facts. How the dishes piled for months, the health risk, the photos, the texts, the repeated asks to clean, the rot. Claire didn't interrupt, didn't give me anything. When I finished, she said, "Do you have evidence of what you're describing?" I opened my gallery. I do. I've got photos, videos, screenshots. Send them all to this email. She dictated it. I wrote it down. And Nathan? Yeah. Don't communicate with her directly from this point forward. If there's escalation, call us. We'll mediate. That word, mediate. It chilled me because what she really meant was stay on your side of the fence and hope the dogs don't jump it. I sent everything that night, every photo, every screenshot, time-stamped, labeled. I even included a list of dates the sink had been unusable, 27 total across 9 months. I wrote a single paragraph at the end. I didn't retaliate. I responded. After months of neglect and health violations, I moved the problem to the space that created it. I damaged no property beyond what was already unsanitary. I'm not proud of what I did, but I was left with no alternative after repeated attempts at civil resolution were ignored. I clicked send. Then I went to work. Didn't sleep much that night. By day 3, I heard back. Thank you for your response. We are reviewing your documentation. In the meantime, please adhere to the following guidelines. No shared communication with Ms. Fairbanks unless mediated. No further alterations to shared or private spaces. Attend a conflict resolution session via Zoom this Friday at 1 p.m. A Zoom call. Mediation from my kitchen table. I looked at the sink. Empty. Clean. The irony wasn't lost on me. Friday came fast. The Zoom call opened with Claire in the center tile, wearing a navy blazer in front of a blurred bookshelf. Alina appeared a minute later, camera on, eyes hidden behind tinted glasses, even indoors. Her voice was flat. He destroyed my bed. Claire nodded. Let's hear both sides. Nathan, why don't you begin? I stuck to the truth. Again. Didn't add drama, just facts. Cleaned dishes 70+ times, stopped doing them, requested help, ignored, noted health hazards, finally acted out of exhaustion. Alina rolled her eyes so hard I could feel it through the screen. None of that gave him the right to ruin my room. He dumped moldy water on my sheets. That's not a boundary. That's aggression. You left rotting food in communal spaces for months. I was working full-time too. I have ADHD, you know. Executive dysfunction is real. I stayed silent. Claire stepped in. Alina, were you made aware of Nathan's concerns before this? She scoffed. He left notes. He could have talked to me. I did. Not constructively. And you ignored every attempt. For months. Because I was overwhelmed. God, you're such a martyr. I clenched my jaw. Claire raised a hand. Okay, let's reset. Nathan, if the dishes were causing such distress, why didn't you request mediation earlier? I almost laughed. Because I thought we were adults. Claire blinked, wrote something down. After the call, I shut my laptop and just sat there, sweat under my shirt, jaw tight. No answers, no resolution, just a meeting to say they heard us. I called my older brother later that night. Devin, he's a landlord in Spokane, handles 8 units, knows the game. When I explained, he said, "You're on thin ice, man. It's dumb, but technically, you crossed the property line. Landlords hate conflict. You might want to start looking elsewhere." Seriously? Yeah. Best case, they let you ride the lease out. Worst case, early termination. What about her? He snorted. They won't want to evict either of you. Too much paperwork. They'll hope one of you leaves on your own. I leaned against the wall. So that's it? Not quite. You got everything documented? Yeah. Then protect yourself. Log every incident, every message. And if she messes up again, report it immediately. Don't confront her. Just stack receipts. I hung up. Wrote that down. Stack receipts. No contact. No reaction. That weekend, she brought friends over. Loud ones. Not a party, technically. Just enough to toe the lease rules. 5 people. Loud music. Smoke in the hallway. I stayed in my room, headphones on, pretending it didn't bother me. Next morning, the sink was full again. 8 dishes, 2 pots, a blender. I took a picture, sent it to Claire, no commentary, just morning of October 14th, shared space left unusable again. Claire replied 2 hours later. Received, adding to file. No apology, no promise, but it was something. We stopped speaking entirely. 2 people sharing space, neither willing to leave first. I ordered a small fridge to my room, bought paper plates, ate in silence, kept gloves under the sink for the days I couldn't avoid cleaning just to boil pasta. She started locking her door even when she left the apartment. I caught her wiping her room key with sanitizer once after brushing past me. I wanted to feel triumphant. I didn't. I just felt tired. Then the fire inspection notice came. Quarterly walkthrough, smoke alarms, extinguisher tags, all mandatory, all shared. I pinned the slip to the fridge. 2 days later, it was gone. I texted her. Fire inspection Friday. Need you to be home between 10:12. No reply. Friday came. 10:30. No Alina. 11. No Alina. I texted again. Inspector's here. You're supposed to be present. At 11:32, she walked in. Eyes red, hair tangled, smelled like vodka. Inspector raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Ran his tests, checked the alarms, flipped the extinguisher. Then he asked to check bedrooms. She froze. You're not going in there. It's policy, ma'am. Just checking the window latch and detector. I said no. He looked at me, then at her. I'll have to report that as a failed inspection. She stormed into her room, slammed the door. 15 minutes later, she was gone. Claire emailed me again Monday. Noted Ms. Fairbanks' noncompliance, added to file. I replied, "What are my options for early release?" She wrote back, "If both tenants agree to dissolve the lease early, we can terminate without penalty. Otherwise, a new tenant must be found to assume your share." I stared at that last line. A new tenant. An idea formed. Not revenge, not pettiness, just possibility. The idea haunted me all night. Find a replacement. Not just anyone. A tenant. Someone sane. Someone who didn't treat a kitchen sink like a landfill. Someone who'd take their shoes off, wipe counters, maybe even split a Costco run. The bar wasn't high. I didn't want a best friend, just not her. So I drafted the listing. Room in 2BR apartment near downtown. Clean, respectful roommate looking to fill space. Mid-20s preferred, no smoking, no pets. Room available for lease transfer or sublet. I didn't include photos of the current state. I shot around it, angled carefully, cropped tight. My room was spotless. The common areas I cleaned. Not for her, for the next person. I created a burner Gmail, used a separate number, posted on 4 platforms: Craigslist, Roomies, Facebook housing groups, and a private listserv from a local co-op Devin plugged me into. By morning, I had 6 replies. 2 were bots. One was clearly a party kid, profile pic of him shotgunning a beer. But 3? Promising. First was Sean, grad student, 30, kept to himself, mostly stayed in labs. Second was Kelsey, barista, 25, did yoga and freelance pet sitting. Friendly, maybe too chatty, but neat. Had her own dishes. Third was Danny, mid-20s, IT support, worked remote, liked plants, mentioned clean kitchen 3 times. I scheduled viewings, told Alina nothing. Not because I was trying to hide it, because it wasn't her business anymore. Wednesday afternoon, Danny came by. She arrived 5 minutes early, waited outside like it was a job interview. When I opened the door, she gave a small wave and said, "I brought my own hand sanitizer. Hope that's not weird." I liked her instantly. I showed her the room, the space, the bathroom. Gave her the honest version, minus the dish saga. It's quiet. I work nights, so I'm not around much. You'd be sharing with one other roommate. She tilted her head. What's the dynamic like? I hesitated. It's ending. She nodded like she got it. You 2 splitting up the lease? If I can find someone solid, yeah, I'd be transferring my share over. She paused by the kitchen sink. Clean. Empty. Just how I'd left it. You're the one that keeps this clean, aren't you? I laughed softly. I try. Danny emailed me that night. Hi, Nathan. Thanks again for the showing. I'd love to take the spot if it's still available. Let me know the next steps. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I opened my tenant portal, filled out the pre-transfer form, and listed Danny as the proposed incoming resident. Uploaded her application. Scanned my lease. Then I emailed Claire. Hi, Claire. Per our prior correspondence, I've found a suitable replacement tenant willing to assume my share of the lease. Her name is Danny Chu. Attached is her application and requested documentation. Please advise on next steps. Best, Nathan. No flair, no drama, just procedure. Alina found out 2 days later. She came home earlier than usual. Keys jangling, door swinging too wide. Her music was off. That alone made me look up. She dropped her bag, turned to me, arms crossed. Are you subletting your room? I didn't answer right away. Yeah. You can't do that without telling me. It's not a sublet. It's a lease transfer. Management's involved. She blinked, the flicker of control slipping. Who is she? Her name's Danny. You'll like her. She doesn't leave food in the sink. Her jaw tightened. I didn't agree to this. You don't have to. The lease allows tenant replacement with landlord approval. She took a step forward. You're seriously bailing? After all this? I'm leaving, Alina, not bailing. You dumped dishes in my bed. And you left mold in our kitchen. You're such a martyr. I nodded once. Maybe, but martyrs don't stay. They burn out and walk. Claire replied on Monday. Danny Chu has passed background and credit checks. We are preparing lease addendum for transfer. Estimated switch date, November 1st. Please sign and vacate your room by that date. Let us know if you need final inspection. I stared at the date. October 23rd. 8 days. That's all I had left. Packing was quiet. I didn't play music, didn't drag boxes. I wrapped my dishes in old shirts, labeled everything, donated half my wardrobe, called Devin, borrowed his van, told work I needed 2 days off at month's end. They didn't ask why. I didn't tell anyone, not because I was ashamed, because sometimes peace doesn't need witnesses. On October 29th, Claire sent the final document. Addendum signed, lease share transferred to Danny Chu, Effective November 3rd. Nathan Haynes released from responsibilities. I exhaled. Not a dramatic breath, just a steady one, like breaking surface after a long, quiet swim. Alina didn't speak to me again. Not when I moved the mattress, not when I cleaned out the fridge, not even when I left my keys in the envelope on the counter. She sat in her room, headphones on, music louder than usual. As I closed the door behind me, I didn't feel hate. I felt nothing, which is its own kind of healing. 3 days later, I got a text from Danny. Hey, just moved in. Thanks for keeping the space clean. Kitchen's still spotless. Feels like a good start. I smiled. Typed, glad to hear it. Hope it stays that way. She replied, me too. I labeled the sponges. I laughed. Small, but real. I didn't go far. Just a studio across town. Tiny. Quiet. The kind of place where you can hear your fridge humming at night, and it's not annoying. It's proof that things are working. I bought a new coffee mug. Ceramic. Matte black. I rinse it every morning, dry it, put it back on the rack. Not because anyone's watching, but because that's who I am. The new studio sat on the second floor of a faded brick walk-up, 3 blocks from a Vietnamese bakery that opened before dawn. The whole building smelled like a mix of old varnish and sugar. No roommates, no parties, just quiet floors, creaky pipes, and a lock that only I had the key to. I moved in on a Sunday, rain tapping the windows like someone knocking politely to be let in. No one helped, no one needed to. 3 boxes, 2 duffels, a mattress, and my dignity. That was all I brought with me. There was no grand celebration, just stillness. I heated a can of chili, sat on the floor with a plastic spoon, let myself feel the emptiness, and I liked it. The first week, I slept like I hadn't in months. No clatter of pans at midnight, no thudding bass from the next room, no lingering stench of rotting takeout. I woke when my body wanted, brewed coffee, left the window open. Even work felt lighter. I clocked in on time, didn't drag. I caught myself humming during inventory checks. My supervisor, Tay, looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You okay, man? I nodded, smiled. Yeah, I think I actually am. He gave me a skeptical look, then went back to counting pallets. One night, a week into the new place, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Not to reminisce, to verify. Was it really that bad? There they were. Timestamps, images, crusted pans, bowls growing civilizations, forks trapped in dried cheese. One picture showed a pot with something blackened and shriveled like it had been cooked in anger. I deleted all of them. Not out of spite. Just because I didn't need the reminders anymore. I hadn't spoken to Alina since the move. No texts, no emails, no late-night "you forgot this" calls. But she wasn't done. 2 weeks after I settled in, I got a call from Claire Simmons. It was 4:45 p.m. I was pulling a frozen pizza from the oven. Hi, Nathan. Sorry to bother you. My stomach sank. What's going on? We received another complaint from Ms. Fairbanks. She's claiming you left damage in your room upon vacating. I blinked. What kind of damage? Said the wall behind your bed was scratched, and there was a large stain on the carpet. I laughed. Couldn't help it. I didn't even have a carpet, hardwood floor, and the wall was clean. I figured as much, but I needed to follow up. I paused. Claire, is she trying to pin something on me? She didn't answer right away. All I can say is, we're treating the matter as closed. The final inspection showed no damages beyond normal wear. You won't be charged. I let out a breath. Thank you. She also requested we retroactively review your lease for any other violations. That made me pause. She what? It's not something we're obligated to honor, and we won't be reopening the case. But I thought you should know. Got it. Before she hung up, Claire added, "Off the record, she seems upset that you left first." Click. That night, I made a list. Things I'd gained since moving. Sleep a kitchen that stayed clean. A fridge I could open without gagging. Silence the ability to exhale. I looked at the last one for a while. It used to be automatic. Then, for nearly a year, it became something I did only when she wasn't home. Now it was mine again. 3 weeks after I left, I got a message. Not from Alina, from Danny. "Hey, just wanted to say thanks again. I love this place, but I might need to ask a weird question." I replied instantly. "Shoot." She texted, "Was there ever, like, a weird smell in the hallway?" I sat back. Before or after I left? Started like 2 days ago. Not kitchen, not bathroom, just hallway. And she keeps spraying perfume over it. It's awful. I thought for a moment. Could be old food somewhere. That's what I thought. But I checked. Nothing in trash, nothing in the fridge. She keeps saying it's the pipes, but I don't think it is. I didn't say what I was thinking. Instead, document everything. If it gets bad, go through Claire. She reacted with then a second message came through. "Thanks again. I don't know how you lasted as long as you did." I didn't reply, but I stared at that message for a long time. Thanksgiving came. I didn't go home. My family was scattered. My sister in Oregon, my dad in a retirement condo in Arizona. We weren't estranged, just politely distant. So I bought myself a rotisserie chicken, made stovetop stuffing, and watched football with a cold beer in hand. At halftime, my phone buzzed. A notification. "Danny Chu tagged you in a comment." I clicked. It was a photo. The kitchen, clean, sunny. A small vase of tulips on the table. Caption, "Feeling grateful for peaceful spaces and clean slates." Tag and Nathan Haynes. The comments were light, heart emojis, "OMG, love this." One friend saying, "Wish I had your place." But one name stood out. Alina Fairbanks liked the post. I stared at it. Not sure what it meant. A dig? An olive branch? Maybe just a reflex. I didn't react, didn't message, didn't block, just closed the app and took another sip of beer. Peace doesn't require an audience. The following Monday, a small envelope arrived at my mailbox. No return address, handwritten. Inside, a Polaroid. My old bedroom from the apartment. Empty, clean, floor swept, wall unmarked. Taped to the bottom was a note. "You weren't the problem, just the mirror. D." I held it for a long time, then slipped it into a drawer. Some things you don't display. You just keep to remember who you are. December rolled in quiet. The kind of quiet where your breath fogs the window and your mornings start slow, with real stillness. No stomping feet, no slammed cabinet doors, no rotting smell hitting you before you've even had your coffee. Just space. Mine. I bought a second mug. Not for anyone in particular, just so I could choose one by mood. One was blue and chipped, the other smooth and gray. I lined them up on my shelf like two quiet victories. Nothing dramatic happened after the note from Danny. No lawsuits, no last words from Alina. Just closure, the way it actually comes in life. Not with an apology, but with the absence of further damage. I think that's the part no one tells you when you're the one who draws the line. You're not going to get a neat ending. You just get your time back. Work settled into a rhythm. They promoted me to team lead for overnight inventory. It wasn't flashy, but it meant 50 extra a week and no more calls on my day off. I trained 2 guys fresh out of high school. They looked up to me for reasons I didn't question. Maybe because I didn't yell. Maybe because I got the numbers right. Devin visited once in mid-December, a 6-pack under one arm. He took one look around the studio and said, "Not bad, man. Smells like peace." I laughed. "Smells like pine sol." He cracked a beer, handed it to me. Nah, it smells like you finally stopped apologizing for having standards. We didn't talk about Alina. Didn't need to. Some chapters close without signatures. You just don't go back. On Christmas Eve, Danny messaged me again. Merry almost Christmas. FYI, I think she's moving out. I blinked. Seriously? Yeah. Saw her packing boxes this morning. She won't look at me. Any idea why? No, but I've kept everything clean. All labels still in place. Fridge organized. I don't engage. That's all you can do. She replied with a peace sign emoji. A week later, Claire confirmed it. Hi, Nathan. Just an FYI, Alina Fairbanks has terminated her portion of the lease effective January 15th. No action needed on your part. I didn't know how to feel. No smugness, no anger, just a deep breath. And for the first time, I realized something. She wasn't my problem anymore. Not in that apartment, not in my inbox, not in my head. January passed quietly. I started doing meal preps on Sundays. Nothing fancy, just rice and grilled chicken. I set timers for laundry. I found a spot at the park where the sun hit just right, and I went there to read a book Devin lent me about boundaries. Real boundaries. Not the internet kind people yell about, but the slow kind that form through clarity and time. I didn't post about any of it. No caption, no cryptic quotes. I just lived. One afternoon in late February, I ran into Danny by accident. I was leaving a grocery store, juggling 2 bags, when I heard a voice behind me. Nathan? I turned. She looked the same, calm, low-key. She held a basil plant in one hand, a baguette in the other. Hey, I said. We ended up grabbing coffee at a tiny cafe next door. Sat outside, jacket zipped. We talked about nothing important. Her job, my new schedule, the bakery down the street. Then she looked at me for a long second and said, I think I'm going to renew the lease. I smiled. That's great. She's gone. Place feels lighter. I nodded. It always could have. We sat in silence for a moment, watching cars go by. She said, I kept thinking she'd come back for a final blow. A note, a tantrum, something. She won't, I said. You sound sure. I lived with her for 11 months. People like that, they don't circle back when there's no audience left. She sipped her coffee. Then she said something I didn't expect. I think you saved that place. I shook my head. I just left. Sometimes that's how you save things. That night, back in my studio, I looked around. My bed was made. A single jacket on the hook. No clutter, no smell. I grabbed my phone, opened my notes app, typed out a sentence. You don't owe people your silence just because they call it peace. I didn't post it anywhere, didn't need to. I just saved it, tucked it between a grocery list and a half-written to-do. And that was enough. 3 months later, Claire emailed me again. Subject, new tenant feedback, your reference. Apparently, Danny listed me as a reference for a new roommate search. She was staying on, but needed to fill the second room. Claire just wanted to verify the handoff. I replied with one line, Danny is clean, respectful, and level-headed, the kind of tenant you hope for. No fluff, just the truth. An hour later, Danny texted, saw your note. Thank you. I sent back, you made that place what it should have been all along. I never saw Alina again. Didn't need to. Whatever she thought of me, whatever story she told about how the dishes ended up in her bed, it didn't matter. The truth lived in the details she always ignored. The smell, the sink, the silence that came after. Last week, I walked past a moving truck outside my old building. For half a second, my chest tightened. Then I saw it was someone else, a young couple, laughing while carrying a lamp that didn't quite fit through the door. A new beginning, probably. Someone else's turn to draw lines, or maybe this time they wouldn't have to. I kept walking, Didn't look back, didn't need to. Back home, I poured coffee into the chipped mug. The blue one. The first one. Steam curled into the air like a slow exhale. I stood by the window, let it fog, let it clear, and I realized this life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Clean, quiet, chosen. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.